What up, y'all? CCousinJ here. Cheers. Let's crack a beer together. If I can fucking open it. There we go. Today I'm going to be bringing you something a little different. Today I'm going to be going over my top 5 favorite Mortal Kombat fatalities of all time. Now, of course, this is my personal list. I thought long and hard about it before I made this video. I was really contemplating what fatalities stuck out to me. Some of, the greatest of all time. I mean, I would argue these fatalities over some others for sure. On my list, I am only going to count fatalities from Mortal Kombat 1 through Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Spoiler, the creative fatality bullshit in Armageddon's not on the list, but I'm using that timeline just because it's the original MK timeline, and that will count any game from that timeline. Yes, MK9 has some great fatalities in the other fucking games after it, but you know what? Some of them are a little too convoluted. Some of them are just, newer renditions of fucking already great fatalities. It's getting to a point where it's almost comedic. We're so desensitized in this day and age that really the hyper gory shit just after a while, it's don't get me wrong, I love that shit, but I must say the original Mortal Kombat fatalities, still to this day, I remember some of them so vividly, and that's why I wanted to make the list. I'm a huge MK fan, and I think this list, some of you will agree with some of them, maybe you'll disagree, but I am going to make some pretty strong cases for some of these fatalities, so, but yes, this list will only be from MK1 through Armageddon, and that's just because, like I already said, some of the newer ones are a little too convoluted, and to be honest with you, with Mortal Kombat doing this multiverse time travel fucking bullshit, it's just a bit ridiculous anymore. Come on, guy. I mean, you gotta get with it, guy. So, but yeah, this is my top 5 favorite fatalities of all time. To start this list off, I'm going to be starting with an absolute classic fucking fatality from an absolute classic fucking character. What I consider the classic characters are from Mortal Kombat 1 through Mortal Kombat 3, vanilla Mortal Kombat 3. Yes, some may consider 4 classic characters too, but really, even, once Ultimate MK3 started, that was, early days of patching and, fixing bugs and shit, and those games are great. Arguably, UMK3 is the greatest game in the series of all time. But not my personal favorite, truthfully, anymore, even though, fuck, man, my brother and I used to play the fuck out of it. But yes, this character is a classic character. This fatality is absolutely classic. And the point is, this fatality is one of the fucking greatest of all time. Fight me over it. And if you don't like it, make your own fucking list. But yes, the guy who does this fatality is, of course, the classic, frightening, forever great Of course Baraka made this list, and why wouldn't he? He's a great character, scared the fuck out of me as a kid, and many others, I'm sure, and this fatality is nothing but a fucking chef's kiss when it comes to a fatality. I mean, it really is one of the greatest, even though it's not my personal favorite, and it's the lowest on my top 5, it's still, to this day, one of my favorites. Personal story with this fatality, I remember growing up where I did, in one of my Walmarts in the area, they actually had a Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet, and the AI, the fucking goddamn bastard CPU of Baraka, hit this on me, and I just walked away from the cabinet after that. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this fatality other than it's classic, it's great, it's brutal, it's simple, it does everything right about a fatality that so many of the newer games now just can't seem to fucking comprehend. And you'll see a continuing trend on my video here. Some of these fatalities fall in line with that, but it is a classic. And since I already spilled the beans and mentioned MK2, I'm sure you know the fatality I'm talking about. So Let's see it right now.
Finish him. Baraka wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
Ah, yes, of course, the classic blade lift. It's so iconic. It's so fucking dope. Just so utterly fucking badass. It is so simple in its nature. Everyone loves gore, but come on, man. When they get a fatality right, they get a fatality right. They didn't have to overdo anything here. It's still to this day one of the best, and it will always be remembered in the true OGMK fans. Kids who grew up in the 90s. I mean, I was even a late 90s kid, and still, to me, it is without a doubt one of the best fatalities of all time. But my number 4 fatality is, in my opinion, so over the top. The man who does this fatality, he's another classic character. This guy, this cyborg, is my number 4 character for this spot.
Sector.
One of the original cyborgs manufactured by the Lin Kuei clan, Sector has grown more and more corrupt over the years. As his programming deteriorates, he becomes a bigger threat than ever. He may prove to be a danger to all, regardless of their alignment.
Ah, yes, Sector, a classic MK character, and in my opinion, a forgotten character in the grand scheme of things, but he was one of the dopest, man. He had the straight fucking missile, he had the homing missile, he had a badass teleport, and he all around was just a dope looking character. My cousin, my homie on this channel, CCousinJ, Cyrax was his main as a kid. My older brother, Asshole Kyle, he will always be known on this channel as Asshole Kyle. He was a smoke main. My personal favorite characters growing up, I had a variety, but I loved Cabal, I loved Jax, Shang Tsung. I mean, come on, guy. But realistically, if you're making the cut for the greatest fatalities of all time, in my opinion, Sector definitely makes that list. And, I mean, if you already know where I'm going with this, his fatality was gory, it was brutal, it was over the top, it was original, and in the time of the digitized era of Mortal Kombat games, it just looked so fucking dope. You already know what I'm talking about, right, y'all?
Oops.
Come on, y'all. That's one of the dopest fatalities of all time. You can't argue with it. Sector was such a dope character when he came out. He was one of the easier playing robots in the game, in my opinion. I mean, he had the straight fire missile, you had the homing missile, you had the fucking dumb uppercut. He had everything in an arsenal. Yes, he was a lower tier character, but obviously MK greats such as Ketchup and Mustard. Ketchup plays the fuck out of Sector, and I mean, he just makes him look so versatile in his gameplay in some of these older games. But that fatality, still to this day, is one of my favorite of all time. I remember the first time I saw that shit, and I was just, my dick was blown clean off. So, Sector takes number 4's spot. Number 3's spot is a little different now. It is definitely definitely from a more obscure game, but in my opinion and many others, one of the greatest of all time, and it is, in my opinion, the best example of a comedic fatality, if you can say any of these are funny, and if you do, you're a sick motherfucker, and you should really get checked out, but who am I to judge? I'm the stupid motherfucker over here with knuckle tattoos. So, I mean, number 3, I mean, it's gonna go to a great. Let's check it out. Yes, of course Johnny Cage made this list. Come on, guy. He's one of the OGs. He's from one of the original games, and boy, when it comes down to it, he's stacked with great fatalities. Great after great after great after great. Even his Deadly Alliance fatality, which is one of the weaker games involving fatalities, in my opinion, one of the better games involving the actual fighting mechanics, and arguably started the whole button combination as we know, 1, 2, 3, 4, all that shit in fighting games. But come on, guy, Johnny Cage can't be fucked with. He's hilarious. He's top tier in some of these games. I mean, he's just an overall great character of the series. And my favorite fatality of Johnny Cage is one of his more obscure, but dude, every fucking time I've done it, every time I've seen it, I've just gone, how the fuck have they not done a fatality as that justice in some of the newer games? They do so much ridiculous shit with Johnny Cage now. You'd think they could get something right by making a fatality like this. And it, of course, involves one of his all-time classic moves, and it is from one of the most obscure, but one of the best, in my opinion, Mortal Kombat games. And you probably already know what I'm talking about, but let's see it. Of course, I was talking about his punching bag nut punch fatality. It's fucking classic. It's hilarious. In my opinion, it's one of the few fatalities that really got the comedic, I would consider dark humor aspect of Johnny Cage in a fatality. I mean, come on, they've tried it in some of these newer games, and they're just fucking lame. What the shit with his daughter and the cell phone and him and MK1, not the original MK, but MK1, because of course they had to name the new fucking Mortal Kombat 1, just to make it confusing because they're following that douchebag trend. But, I mean, it's the only, one of the few funny fatalities in my opinion. Jax's stomp could be an honorable mention as far as humorous ones. But realistically, I mean, come on, guy. That fatality's fucking great. It's always going to be great. You can't fuck with it. It's just Johnny Cage, arguably, almost all his fatalities could make some sort of list. The 3 uppercuts knocking your fucking head off. I mean, it's hilarious. Christoph, I said that one for you, brother. But my number 2 fatality, a little more obscure here. It doesn't, there's no funniness about it. It's just brutal. And the first time I saw it, I went, God damn. And I mean, that goes to none other than this man coming up.
Hotaru's mission is to keep order at any and all costs.
Yes, my number 2 spot goes to Hotaru. A rather obscure character in the series, but in my opinion, a standout character. He's from the 3D era, obviously, so he doesn't get a lot of love. 3D, slurring my words there, fucking that Ohio accent. That 3D era of Mortal Kombat characters, and he is one of the dopest looking characters by far, in my opinion, and it's probably controversial. But, you know, I think some characters in these new MK games are not very standout. They're kind of stock, and even some of the cooler ones you can look at, you know, an Aaron Black, it's just a fucking cowboy, man. I mean, guys, you got to come up with some original shit like you did back in the day. Come on, guy, get with it, everybody. Make some cool characters again and make some fucking badass fatalities. This fatality is simple in its fucking nature, man, but that's why I like it. I mean, he's the guy who really, I have one fatality that was going to make this list, but he beat it out. I was going to include Quan Chi's leg rip, But, you know, thinking back, I went, man, you know, fuck ripping the leg off and beating you to death. Let's just grab you by the leg and just swing you around. I mean, dude, he's just beating the fuck out of him. I mean, I feel bad for him. It's giving me vibes. It's giving me, it's bringing back memories. I can't, what am I trying to think of here? I can't remember what I was trying to say, but it'll come to me eventually. But yeah, man, I mean, the fatality you saw in the bio, just a brutal beatdown fatality. I mean, in my opinion, one of the greatest. It's overlooked, but fuck me, is it effective. He just grabs you by the fucking leg and starts beating the fuck out of you until you fucking explode. It's super gory, it's super effective, and again, it's one of those simple fatalities where they don't need to do too much. Yes, it's not realistic, but guess what, guys? None of the Mortal Kombat games are fucking realistic, so when you break it down, it is what it is. But I give Hotaru my number 2 spot, and again, I'll just show it because it is one of those just fatalities that is so overlooked, forgotten, lost in time. But fuck me, man. When you beat someone and you want to do a fatality, how lame is it when someone's pulling out their phone on Facebook and shit? All this woke crap in these new games. I mean, guys, you gotta go back to what made MK great. And this is what made MK fucking great. Shit like that. Hotaru, just do it.
Hotaru wins. Fatality.
Damn, that is a great fatality. I'll defend that one till the end of time. But it didn't quite make my number 1. My number 1 checks the box of everything that I think makes a great fatality. Now, before I show you and before I tell you who does the fatality, I must say this is my list, and this is, probably in a lot of people's opinion, an underwhelming one in the grand scheme of things. But I don't care what anyone fucking says, this fatality has stuck in my fucking mind since I first saw it. And I mean, guys, if you don't like this, I don't know what to tell you. I think they got everything right about this. It was simple, it was badass, you felt just like you fucking decimated the person after doing it. This is the real chef's kiss of a fatality, in my opinion. It may not be the goriest, it may not be the most flashy fatality, but goddamn, in my opinion, does it deliver. And it comes from one of the greatest characters in the game. Without further ado, this is the guy who does the fatality, and then we'll get into it, because it may not be the one you're thinking of, but here he is, one of the big bads.
Shang Tsung, he is the symbol of evil.
That's right, it's coming from our boy Shang, the original final boss of the Mortal Kombat series, and in my opinion, one of, if not the most iconic characters. He would probably make, truthfully, my top 5 list of favorite characters of all time. He's just so dope, guys, and he has had so many good fatalities. I mean, he was going to have, in MK1 right there, he was going to have a fatality at one point. I don't think they had time, or they didn't have the memory to put in the arcade cab for it. I'm not sure, but it is one of the greatest characters of all time. And I mean, in MK2, he's had some of the most iconic fatalities. All the games, he's had killer fatalities. But my favorite of his, and my favorite fatality of all time, is one of the most underrated in my opinion. And it is just, it's perfect. And let's take a drink. And let's check that shit out.
Finish him. Shang Tsung wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
Of course, guys, with every hint I gave you, it was Shang Tsung's spike fatality. I mean, it is just, in my opinion, the quintessential fatality. And it is obviously, from what you're seeing right now, due to the fact that I was a kid who loved MK growing up, and the early games meant something to me. And the first time I saw the Mortal Kombat movie, the original 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, goddamn. I mentioned to you earlier that my dick was blown off from Sector's fatality. I should have mentioned to you that my dick was blown off from Johnny Cage's fatality, because he knocked everything off but your dick, your nuts, your legs. But seriously, Shang Tsung's spike fatality is one of my favorites. It's simple. It's not overly gory. Look, I love the gory fatalities just as much as everyone else. But man, the first time I saw that fatality, I immediately was like, holy shit, the Mortal Kombat movie. I saw the movie before I actually saw the fatality done. I didn't grow up with the internet. The first time I saw the fucking fatalities is when I beat Trilogy and got to see the little rundown of all the fatalities in the game. And I was like, wow, that's fucking badass. And guys, Mortal Kombat's fucking great. It is one of the all-time greatest. And I mean, that fatality, in my opinion, is just the quintessential. You show someone what MK is about. You're showing Shang Tsung throwing someone into some spikes. You're showing someone. Obviously, I didn't mention some of the fatalities I'm about to in my personal favorite list, but you show them the dragon fatality from Liu. I think that may have been in the intro at one point. You just show them certain things, and if someone isn't prepared for it, I mean, they're assholes just going to prolapse right on the spot. What more can you say? Mortal Kombat is one of the greatest series of all time. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. It's the greatest fighting game of all time. There's, as far as, if you want to get into the nitty gritty, yeah, there's better fighting games. I mean, all the fighting game community sucks the dick of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, great. Soul Calibur's great. Killer Instinct was great. Street Fighter, obviously, Mortal Kombat took inspiration from that. But they did something different. They did something that you'll remember. And we remember all these movies and we remember all these games for a reason. Because they're fucking badass. And that is the quintessential badass fatality, in my opinion. Mortal Kombat has a special place in my heart. And I'm sure just like in your guys' hearts, Mortal Kombat, you'll always remember it. You'll always remember it for certain reasons. You remember the fatalities, man, and they're great. In this movie, in that fatality, there's a special place in the back of my fucking mind. And guys, I mean, Shang Tsung takes number 1. I thought long and hard about it, but those are my top 5 greatest fatalities of all time. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. You know the words. But yeah, guys, I mean, when I first saw this scene...
And you promised that you would always take care of me? I remember. Now it's my turn to take care of you, brother. Lou, come with me. Forgive you for letting me die. No. It wasn't my fault. Brother. No! Chan chose his own path. Every man is responsible for his own destiny. Shang Tsung killed my brother! You're mine!
That's what I look like every time I nut. If anyone watches this video, thank you. And give it a like and subscribe if you want to. I'm going to be making more shit like this eventually. It's crude. I'm playing DVDs on a PlayStation 2. I don't know all this fucking new age lingo with emulators and online bullshit. I'm just a regular guy. Player. That was my top 5. So again, I'll go through them. You got Baraka's blade lift, or as I call it, the Michael Myers butt poke. You got the ever gracious compactor by Sector.
You just can't teach some people. I thought I told you, greatness requires sacrifice.
You got a punch right to the dick. You got... I forget my second one. What was it? And you got a true classic. Guys, gals, that's my top 5 favorite fatalities of all time in the original MK timeline. Fuck this Marvel shit. We gotta go back to the OG shit. I'm talking Annihilation, Special Forces, Mythologies of Sub-Zero. Give us all the good games back. Tell me what... Wait a minute. Tell me what you think. And... yeah, guys. It's been fun. Have some beers with me. Have some beers with my cousin sometime. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you think I'm ugly. I don't give a fuck. But let's bring back some old school feeling shit. To everyone who's going through some shit, I hope it gets better for you. To everyone in Los Angeles, the fire's going on right now. Praying for you. And, yeah. This is CCousinJ signing out. My top 5 favorite fatalities of all time. Godspeed and peace.